Hello everyone. I'm going to be doing this presentation on a sacred city for Hinduism, Varanasi, and it's my Geography 202 project, the University of Maryland for summer session 1. My name is Joseph Groger. Well, what I'm going to be exploring in this video is why this site is sacred to Hindus and the other religions that find this site to be of significance as well. I'll also go into Hinduist history and the reasons I chose the city and site. Yeah, so let's get started. Okay, well, Hinduism goes back as far as 5500 BC. It's referred to as the world's oldest living religion. Now, what that means by that is most religions, such as the major other religions, such as Christianity, Islam, are relatively new religions, speaking in terms of human history. Back to Jesus Christ and Muhammad, when Hinduism has in fact been around much longer than those two, and it goes back to the ancient Sanskrit texts, is where the roots of Hinduism are from. And the Indus River Valley civilization was the first actual place where Hinduism was started, and its different gods. And some of the different gods they worshipped include Indra, Varunu, and Agni. Excuse me if I don't pronounce all these correctly. I'm not that familiar with it. And Hinduism's gone through very significant changes over the past 2,000 years. And like before that, Hinduism's seen rise and falls of different gods and empires, and that's really why I wanted to do that research, is because it's so fascinating. And I just had some pictures here of some of the earlier gods of Hinduism. In the bottom left you can see that's the god of fire. He was often sacrificed to as well. Well, the thing about Hinduism is that it lacks any specific coherent set of beliefs which all worships follow. Now, understand there's different threads through most different religious contexts, but Hinduism has a wide variety of different beliefs and gods worshipped. I mean, Hinduism ranges from polytheism, monotheism, and everything in between, really. I mean, there's some groups that only worship one god, and there's others that follow the divinity of all of the different gods within the culture. And many of gods have been absorbed from different cultures and religions that have exposed themselves here over thousands of years, like I was talking about earlier. And let's see, the different type of Hinduisms that are around today. There's been hundreds of different. I could spend all day going over the ones before these, but we'll go the basic route with these. Vaishnavism, those are the followers of the Lord of Vishnu, and that's a pretty big sect in Hinduism. Shivaism, followers of Shiva. Most of you have probably heard about Shiva, the preserver, the destroyer, those kind of themes in that religion. Smartism, it's pretty liberal Hinduism. They accept all of the major different gods. I mean, they'll probably have multiple sites of worship at different temples for the different gods, rather than focus on one like the other ones. And Shaktism is the followers of Shakti, another god. And I thought this chart here was pretty fascinating. It's kind of like how some forms of Hinduism branched out in the early worship. You can see how it diverged into these different groups and different worship of gods. And there's some more gods on the left, those pictures. And the reason I wanted to do Hinduism is because I feel like it's very misunderstood in Western culture, in that it's not really taken seriously by Westerners, I'd say, at least in my own personal experience. They find it silly, but in fact, Hinduism has around 1 billion followers, so any religion with that kind of population needs to be taken seriously. That makes it the third largest religion in the world. So let's move on to the next slide. Well, there are some similarities between sects, although Hinduism in general doesn't have as coherent of one set of tenets that many other religions have. It's defined as religious tradition, I guess you could say, and the fact that there's so many different sects and beliefs and interpretations of Hinduism. And I was looking into the different themes of Hinduism, and some of them have parallels with other religions that hail from the region. Buddhism came from India, and as well as Jainism and Sikhism, and they all kind of, intersect in this culture, which is very fascinating. As well as there's a substantial Islamic population in India as well, millions of people. So, yeah, karma is a fairly universal idea, and most of you have heard, recognize the term karma. What goes around comes around. How you behave in this life will affect your next life, and the bad deeds that you've committed will come back to haunt you, etc., etc. Reincarnation's also a common theme. Being reborn in another life as a different, maybe another animal or another person. So it's more incentive to do good in your life now so that you'll be rewarded later. And also what was fascinating was the idea of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the universe, and it's kind of like one giant cycle. And these cycles are brought on by the gods that they worship. So, found all of that to be very interesting about Hinduism. So like I said, Hinduism has about 1 billion followers, making it the world's third largest religion. It's concentrated primarily in the Indian subcontinent. India has, I believe, the world's largest population now. I think they just overcame China in terms of population. And let's see, they're concentrated as well as Nepal. I'm sure you've all heard of Nepal. Bangladesh, a very large country with Hinduism. Indonesia, which also has a huge Islamic population. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Malaysia, even the United States. Many immigrants have come to the United States. There's plenty of Indian people that migrate to the United States every year. South Africa has a Hindu population, and Myanmar. So those are all the countries that have major parts of religion, major populations of Hindus. So we went over that, and what kind of brings all these people back to India is these sacred sites of their religion. They'll bring Hinduism to their different countries if they immigrate, or if they're already there. They'll still come back to India from these other countries to pay homage to these sacred sites. And, some pictures. There's the Taj Mahal, and there you guys have an idea about India right here. This picture and the globe. Their relation to the rest of the world. The Indian subcontinent actually crashed into Asia, millions of years ago, and that's what created the Himalayan mountains. There's plate tectonics going on. I guess that isn't exactly relevant, but I just figured I'd throw that in there. Okay, and the main focus of my project is the city of Varanasi. And the city is considered sacred by Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains. The Ganges River is the main focus of the pilgrimage there. And Ganges River is also very close to the Nepal border. It's been a cultural, religious center for thousands of years. there's been many prominent Indians come from there, including philosophers, poets, writers, musicians. So, it's been claimed by, when I was doing my research, everybody said, this is a huge cultural center with all sorts of intersection of different cultures and everyone living side by side, all respecting the spiritual site. But I'm going to focus more on the Hindu side of the pilgrimage and why it's sacred. But it's been known as different names over the centuries. Let me see if I can pronounce some of these. Let's see. Avemaktaye, Enadektanana, Mayas Masan, Surandhana, Brahmavajra, Surandasna, Rama, and Kasi. So those, over the thousands of years, it's had different identities, different rulers, kings, empires, have risen and fallen. Very interesting stuff. And here's some pictures of the city and the people in the Ganges River. There's apparently you'll walk down the river and there'll just be, every 10 steps there's some kind of temple, or there's some kind of worship, or some kind of homage or sacrifice going on, and to these different gods and everything, and everyone pays their respects. So you can see that it's pretty interesting how it's obviously a very dense population, has a warmer climate, pretty forgiving climate. You can see the women down in the bottom right corner just waiting in the river. And there's actually some legendary history associated with Varanasi, and it's extraordinarily old. I mean, it's probably the oldest city in terms of